So, shall we do some quick intros of name, how you feel right now? Um, if you facilitate groups or anything like that, or anything you want to say about that aspect of things, feel free. And then we could do another round and jump straight into the whole shame thing, see how that goes. Who fancies starting and passing it on? And to remind you, you can say pass at any stage. Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul. Hi, Kenny. Hi, Adrian. Good to meet you. Hi, Neil, Joseph, Jan, Greg, Patrick, and Tanvir. I'm buzzing today, buzzing, but I haven't had any sleep. I normally sleep for 4 hours. That's like my limit at the moment. So I went to bed early thinking I could trick my body by going to bed early. So I went to bed at 10:30 and then wide awake at midnight for about 5 hours and then back to sleep for another hour and a half. I was trying to work out. No, it must be stressful that I'm not working much and I'm living on my mom's couch and all this stuff. Yeah, it must be some stress thing. And then no, it's actually I'm just really excited. I get to see my son today, and I'm like a kid at Christmas, like couldn't sleep, so buzzing and pumped, and yeah, just so excited to be seeing him. Just so buzzing. I've not seen him in a couple of weeks. He's coming up to London. I'm gonna take him off for the day. That's just amazing. And the only little snag was, oh shit, I'm gonna miss MenSpeak at lunchtime, but it's weighed out by seeing him. But that was the only thing. And then I got a message, do you want to do this beforehand? I'm like, it's perfect. I finished this and then straight on the bus to go and meet him. Like my perfect day, hanging out with you guys and seeing my son. It couldn't be any better. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So tough for you. So good to hear that. Who'd you fancy passing it on to?
Joseph.
Yeah, I'm Joseph. Yeah, I suppose I've been coming to checking groups or sporadically for about 8 months or so. I feel all right. I have kind of, I suppose, in the last sort of couple of weeks and recently, I've been kind of hit by some.
Is that your mic? There's a lot of scratching about.
A bit scratchy, Joseph.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Wiggle a lead.
Yeah.
Wiggle a
That's
okay.
better.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose what's coming to mind is like I've been hit by some sort of like crappy professional news for the last like couple of weeks, and it's kind of just building up a bit at the moment. And I'm trying to keep positive, keep my energy up, keep my sort of like, yeah, I suppose like my sort of like buzz going, but I'm finding it a bit challenging at the moment. But I'm just sort of trying to keep that going, and yeah, that's kind of how I'm at the moment.
Thank you, Joseph. Fancy passing it on?
Yeah, I'll pass to Neil.
Hi. Thanks, Joseph. I'm Neil. Right now I'm feeling very alive. Had a late night last night. It was my first night in central London since March 2020, and it was an eye-opener walking through the city for me in terms of my past relationship with the city. I am an accredited MenSpeak practitioner. I've been facilitating men's groups since about 2017-18, and love the MenSpeak vibe and depth. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
And
how do you feel right now?
A little nervous, edgy, alive, rich.
Thanks, Neil.
I will pass to Tanvir.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Tanvir. I'm feeling a little bit like my energy is really quite antsy. I feel quite up here and a bit, I think got a lot going on. Got an event today coming onto this group, judgments and stuff all in my head, and it's just a little bit kind of want to come down a bit. But I've been doing men's groups as well. I've been facilitating them for a couple years now, and it's funny because I think that journey I'm learning more how to hold myself as a facilitator in the group rather than the people in the group. Like as a facilitator, I find a lot of my own stuff and judgments about myself come up, you know, how the guys are viewing me, you know, how well am I doing? Am I performing right? Am I coming across too much like a facilitator or not enough like a participant? But yeah, I'm feeling good, like trying to lead, yeah, the whole shame and stuff, like just trying to come from a much more healthier, real place has been really, really good for me, and I'm loving the journey so far. Yeah, looking forward to this call as well.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll pass it to Jan.
Thank you, Tanvir. I'm Jan. Similar, actually, Tanvir. I'm kind of all over the place at the moment, in my head a lot the last few days. And I've noticed I'm not sleeping very well. And there's this kind of correlation between the two. So when I don't sleep as well, I get in my head and I overthink about why am I not sleeping, and that kind of keeps me out of my body, which then makes me more tired, but then more wired. And so I'm in this little pattern at the moment of like 4 or 5 days in a row now where I've had very little sleep. I'm quite envious of the way Paul was talking about. I have like 4 hours. I'm like, I need 8 for me to really be able to function, and I'm getting about 3. So it's yeah, that's a bit of an interesting experience at the moment. I'm feeling really grateful to have this space this morning, and I'm also feeling kind of intrigued as to where this is going to go. Shame is quite a big thing for me at the moment. I think it probably has been for a lot of my life. Shame and exclusion, and the reason why I get excluded, and all of that kind of stuff, which is, yeah, it's rich territory for us to be digging into. So I'm looking forward. I say looking forward. I'm intrigued to see where we get to, because I have a feeling I'll be quite raw at some point. And I've been involved with MenSpeak for what, 5 years, something like that, and facilitating for a couple of years. Yeah, that's where I'm at. And I will pass to Adrian.
Thanks, Jan.
Thanks, Jan, and hello, everyone. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. I am feeling, I'll open with that, zoned in would be what I'd say, as opposed to zoned out. Wow, what an interesting theme we have here. I have slept for 0 hours and 0 minutes. I just have not slept. I was working until very late last night, and then it's like I just needed downtime. So I just sat and played video games and binged and have not slept. And I don't know why just the past couple of days specifically have been like, I can sleep anywhere. It's actually probably annoying to any of you who are light sleepers, but I can sleep trains, buses, doesn't matter. I can sleep anywhere. So I don't know, maybe it's the weather changing, you know, the last sun of the summer yesterday. But yeah, there's definitely a shift for me. But yeah, I managed to actually do something for myself, which was sprint to the sauna this morning, to like sit in the sauna for like 20 minutes and then come back to do this call, because I've got a bunch of really great stuff scheduled for today. But I knew I wouldn't fit that in if I didn't do it ahead of time. So I'm actually quite pleased for that. I have popped in and out of MenSpeak groups since I came to London about 3 years ago. I met Kenny. I really should aspire to be in a place in my life where I actually, you know, reduce the work hours to what they should be, so that I actually have time and space in my life to actually facilitate a men's group, because I just think it's so important and so essential for mankind, humankind as a whole. So yeah, who should I hand over to? I guess anyone, to Patrick.
Thanks, Adrian.
Adrian, good morning, all. My name is Patrick. I'm feeling excited to be here. What a great bonus session. I'm a little out of practice with daily check-ins, and I was examining this and looking inward and thinking, why don't I go so often? And yeah, that nirvana, Adrian, you described of paring down the work stuff and the tough stuff and creating more time for self, more self-love, more time to examine and observe. That excites me. It still excites me. I think I'm just a little bit out of the habit of daily check-ins, and I'm not in crisis so much, in as much as when I discovered MenSpeak way back in the dark, wintry recesses of sort of January, February 21, reaching out to like-minded, warm, caring souls was life-changing and unexpected, and I hadn't been involved before, but getting into the bosom of men who would share and listen has been life-changing. There's no other word for it. So really happy to pick that up, really happy to see you guys. It's organized because there are 9 of us, so the gallery screen looks good. What more could we possibly want? Thank you very much. Who is left on our list? Greg.
Greg. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm Greg. I've been involved with MenSpeak for a couple of years or so, I think something like that. And for most of that have been facilitating groups. I think you might have said life-changing, Patrick. It's been life-changing for me in lots of ways, just perfect for me. And I'm incandescent with rage. I feel very alive as well. Most of that aliveness is venomous. Yeah, I had a bit of a rant this morning, which of course escalated into well, the of course is significant. Anyway, escalated into much more personal, vicious than it needed to be. And I'm just trying to come off that. And then as I was starting to come off it, the dog that barked was mine. And as I let her out of the room, I have to confess to a serious desire to, boot her down the stairs. Work. So I'm right in that. So I know talking about it helps, but I'm right in that. And it's absolutely great to see you. I'm glad we're having this.
Thanks, Greg. I wonder if everyone's breathing listening to that, or whether you're holding on to it. And as you were talking, I was feeling my feelings of when there is a row and the energy that's there, and how I can be seduced in it, and how I can pass it on or react or want to kick the dog or shout at the call center person or smash something or internalize it. But throughout all of that, I generally feel like shit and don't know what to do with this shit. So my name's Kenny. I feel a lot calmer and a lot more alive now that we've had our 2 minutes and I've hung out with you for a little while, because as you may have noticed before we started, I was just bouncing off the walls all over the place, not knowing if I'm Arthur or Martha. What a relief to just be here and check in and take the edge off. And my mind has been going bonkers this morning, being quite shocked and realizing my different layers of shame, whether it's being compared to my cousins who might have better handwriting or better grades, or things to do with physicality or sexuality, kissing, being teased when there's kissing on TV or anything like that, or being poorer than my peers who are trustafarians, or better dressed than my peers who are poorer than me, or God knows what, we're a different color to other people, having a posher accent and thinking, is it a real accent or am I putting it on? And it's like, wherever I look, it's like riddled with shame. So I wonder about whenever people want to speak, doing a round on off the top of your head, what is your relationship to shame? And if you want to use it as a confessional and speak things out, that's fine. But also to be aware that it's not a place to out people. It's a place to talk about your own relationship to your own shame, and maybe how it's affected you, limited you, and maybe even how you've turned it around to set yourself free. Who fancies kicking things off?
Go. Thank you. So yeah, even taking the space there was a bit of shame there. Like, you know, Patrick put his hand up, and then I felt like, oh, I'm jumping in now. Am I being a dick? Like, oh, I felt instantly like it's always been, it's definitely like it's a subject that I guess means a lot, because I came through the whole nice guy, No More Mr. Nice Guy stuff, and in that book he talks a lot about toxic shame, and I never heard that naming of it as toxic shame. And yeah, it's developed now to the point where I can kind of get a hold on it, and it's more like of a choice of just being who I want to be in that moment, and not letting that shame kind of come up and have a voice. And it can have a voice in so many different interactions with friends, or like little social things, even at work or when I'm on the phone, and it just tends to just come up in ways that can kind of it's what perception is reality. And every time I've kind of perceived that shame, it manifests it. And I've learned now that actually I don't have to listen to it. I can just give power to something else. But
So you've got more choice with it?
Absolutely. That's exactly it, Kenny. Yeah. It's the perception of oh, that is shame. Okay. Yeah, I know what that is.
So it no longer owns you?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say so, yeah.
How did you swing that one?
It's like that. It's so cliche. It's like the body work of noticing that shame in my body, and the jitters it might put in the back of my shoulders, or the sinking feeling in my chest, and like the warmth in my cheeks from blood rushing. And it's like, that, my vision getting constrained, like, those feelings that you become very familiar with, and not doing anything with it or playing with it, just realizing, oh, right, yeah, that's shame. Oh, okay, that's enough. Just doing that over and over again, up to a point where it's just like, okay, that's shame. And then it just, yeah.
So noticing shame when it's there, as separate to you, and choosing how to respond to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what you I've learned from you, is just the matter of noticing it makes it separate from me. And it's just constant iterations of noticing it has let it separate itself from me now. And I get to choose like who I want to be in that moment. And that's just a genuine sense of who I want to be in that moment, what I want to talk about, where I want to be. And that just sits so right, not with other people, but with myself. And it just always works out. It just always works out when you really come from your truth. But yeah.
Wow. What I've really, really enjoyed about knowing you over the years, Tanvir, is the way that you take your space and you exist. Even what you talked about with Patrick here, rather than apologizing and running away and being invisible, you shared the space, you took your space, you named whatever is going on, and it's just so simple and clear. It's like, and as you take your space, I feel closer to you, and that I can have a relationship to you, rather than you step back, therefore I have to step back, and who knows. So yeah, good on you, Tanvir. Thank you.
Unless you want to come in, Patrick.
After you, Neil, sir.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that stepping back, that's brought back a memory from a few days ago, which I guess relates to shame. But I I think I was thinking this morning about what's the difference in me between fear and shame. And I think shame is when I sort of make some sort of decision in myself that something I've done is undoable, of a bad nature, and that that decision or belief about what I've done, maybe that leads to the separation, or maybe that's a way to undo it. I don't know about cause. So a thing that's very useful is to ask the other personal people involved, was that true for you? When I said this, I felt, do you remember it? What was your response at the time? And that can be really helpful, because things that have hung in my head for weeks, when I've asked that question, they say, sometimes the person says, oh, I don't remember that, or yeah, I was cool, it just passed by. No, nothing in me as you are describing was in you. And you've used the words breaking the spell, Kenny, and I'd say that breaks the separation and shame spell and brings me back to a place where I can engage in the moment with someone much more freely.
Wow. I remember my addiction to my thoughts, my paranoia, my second guessing, my God, I've done so wrong, and it was just all disconnection. But what you're saying, I believe, is find out, deal with the facts rather than the fears and the fantasies.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, and then I found out that it was all going on in my head.
Yeah. Loads of it is, and loads of it is in other people's as well, and that's where these real communication, when this happened, I felt this, I believe this, is that true for you? So valuable. It's the facts and the emotional reality of the other's experience, so important. So true. Just is, just allow it to be out in the open.
Cheap line coming up, name it rather than shame it, or blame it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. Are you going to do an after you, Patrick, or is it your turn?
I'm happy to go.
Are you sure?
I'm very happy. Tanvir, thank you for your wise words. I'm pleased I stood down for that nanosecond, and boy, I've missed you. Thank you for that, Neil. A bit of a confession here. When I got the invitation for this morning, I hastily sped Reddit and misinterpreted it as shame and social media. And I thought, oh yes, because the Insta generation, and it's all fake news, and that's interesting, and lurking and bitching. No, it's going on social media. So then I thought, well, what am I? Shame. Oh, I don't really know much about shame. Do I do shame? Is shame one of these things that goes under the Patrick carpet and doesn't really get addressed and looked at, possibly? Oh, and then I sort of watched something on YouTube this morning, and I thought, oh, I better look into this. So I went to Dr. Google, and I thought, because I was interested in the etymology of shame, I thought that would be a good start, and separating it from guilt, because I tend to bundle guilt and shame together. And what Google says is shame is an unpleasant self-conscious emotion typically associated with a negative evaluation of the self, withdrawal motivations, feelings of distress, exposure, mistrust, powerlessness, and worthlessness. Or rather, that's the Wikipedia summary. So I was worried that I didn't have anything to say about it, and I wish to be more of an observer here, because I don't think I'm qualified to even talk about my own shame, because it's something I've never done. So really exciting on that basis, a little bit daunting, but interesting. So I'm really interested to pursue it further.
I have a sneaky little fantasy or question. I wonder whether, between the lines, what I was thinking is, I wonder if he's saying, I'm not good enough or qualified to enter the shame conversation, and that's a little shameful. So I'll apologize and step back and be smaller.
And shameful.
Yeah, might just be my fantasy.
I think you've hit it on the head, which is in itself interesting.
In me, oh, sorry, Patrick. I was just going to say that I've been noticing strongly a link between a sense of the importance of hierarchy and shame. They seem to be very, very linked.
Yes, clever. And the other thing to put into the mix, of course, is, which some of you will know, Tanvir, also recovering Mr. Nice Guy here as well, and all of that bundled in the history with people pleasing and people, me wanting people to like me and all this sort of thing. Obviously, that is inextricably linked with past shame and things as well. So yes.
And what you said right in the beginning was so valuable to remind me that so many men show up at the men's groups in the room or online or whatever with what's wrong with me and how do I do me right. And what we find out is, firstly, we're not alone with the question. Secondly, there's nothing wrong with any of us, because by naming things and finding out, find what's in common, and it's just like perspective or experience or whatever it is. And rather than doing me right, it's more, who do I no longer need to be? And how can I allow myself to be me, and then see who and what shows up in my life that I can engage with, rather than stepping back and putting on a show to manipulate safety or invisibility or popularity or God knows what the game is. It's like, show up rather than show off. Thank you, Patrick. Here's Greg. You're on mute, Greg. I love that you did that. That used to be the mantra for you, eh, Greg?
Listen, don't. I'm enjoying being livid here. Please don't make me feel. Don't make me laugh. I don't want to laugh and be happy. Yeah, it was. That's what I did all the time, isn't it? I appreciated your description. I didn't know the difference very clearly, Patrick, between shame and guilt and all the rest of it. And as we were talking, as I was fighting off my just, a sense of feeling irritated and wound up. I mean, like, one of us somewhere has got a power cable that's not in properly, so it's going bing every now and again, right? It's driving me fucking mental. And it doesn't really matter. I know it doesn't really matter. And I'm not saying that to punish, but like that, I'm saying that's where I'm at. So
Do you feel shameful that it was driving you bonkers?
No.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's
just
kind
checking.
of a bit like wanting to, for the record, I've never kicked the dog, but I came close there. Kicked some people, but I've never kicked a dog. And so, yeah. So what I'm noticing is, I'm a bit better now. Just listening to you is really helping me, so I appreciate that. The seduction in staying angry is, for me, is so, like, I'm moving in and out of it, going back into a couple of hours ago, and rather enjoying the sense of outrage, and then kind of trying to reestablish myself here with you guys and with myself and feel more in touch and all the things that I aspire to be and want to show other men when I can and all the rest of it. So it's a right battle. And then some rational bit of my brain is working out what shame means for me. And I'm wondering whether I don't pay it enough attention. My first thought was, I have no shame about anything. And then I started to feel good about myself for that. Oh, neat. I've pulled off the shame trick. I don't have it. I have guilt, and I'm wondering about the two bits. And yes, for sure, there are things about me that I'm not proud of. I don't feel ashamed, the same thing. I don't have a cool punchline here. This is just what's going through my mind. I certainly wish I Yeah.
What's going through your body right now, Greg?
What's going through my body is the kind of body is withholding tears about not being so angry so easily. I think.
And
but not wanting to lose and not wanting to give up on the anger, you know, hanging on to it.
Wanting a better way to meet your needs.
Well, now I feel like a discombobulated fool now. I introduced myself as a facilitator with the MenSpeak stuff, and I have a relatively competent moments in my life, and I'm doing okay in lots of ways, and I'm rather proud of myself in lots of ways. And right now I feel a bit of a fool, of course. Well, maybe not, of course, but I do. But I don't feel shame about it. A bit of embarrassment, maybe.
Way to lead. You're allowed to be like this, and everyone's allowed to be like this. And it's opening up.
I know.
And I wonder whether...
I'm glad I've got the space. But there's something about, I don't know whether it's called shame, but there's something about the gap between, and when I get angry, I go passive aggressive, and I'm dangerous in that sense. I'm dangerous. You know, with women particularly, I'm dangerous in a passive aggressive way. And it's destructive in different ways. You know, and I'm also lovely, and people tell me I can be lovely. So there's both, but I wish I could handle, that still work for me. Maybe I have some shame around that. Maybe I do have some shame around that. Feels more like guilt than shame to me right now.
My fantasy is that it is the shame around that access to or groove into aggression, passive aggression, anger. And I'm hearing a part of me like, yeah, of course it's shame. Like, how fucking stupid. Of course it's shame. And then it's like, how many times have I told myself that what's going on is something totally different because I'm not willing to look at it, and then I feel shameful afterwards for not being aware enough to see it. And it was interesting hearing Tanvir talk about him observing his shame. I felt really shameful. It's like, fucking hell, how, like, it really annoys me that some people are just able to like handle shit and get through shit, and here I am stuck in shit. It's like, and Tanvir's like 12. How the fuck is it all right for Tanvir to get to the other side of this and I'm still swimming in it? Like, what the fuck is that about? And what I really appreciate about the way you were sharing, Greg, is it reminded me of how stuck I get in the narrative of, no, this is what it is, as opposed to, oh, that might be something else, or maybe that person's got a point, or yeah, there could be something else going on here. It's like, no, this is what's going on. They're an arsehole. I'm justified. This is the reality. And then after a little bit of time, I was going to use another word, but this is being recorded. After a period of time, I then have this, it starts off with guilt for me, like guilty that I acted a certain way or that I wasn't the best me or whatever. And then that guilt starts a spiral into shame. And that's how I experience it, is guilt is like the first step into. And if I acknowledge the guilt up front and clean it up, like you were saying, Neil, in terms of, you know, is that how you experienced it, and can we clean this up? Then it kind of disappears. And I know that works. It's just most of the time I'm fearful of having that conversation, which keeps me inside, which then means that guilt goes on and creates this inward spiral of, oh God, I'm such an arsehole, I always do this, and and so that narrative starts of, this is who I am and how I will always be, because I am worthless, or because I am stupid, or because I'm not strong enough, and all of those self-judgments start. And that's where my shame comes in, and it's normally around other, like, how am I relating to? Am I giving them space? Am I allowing them to be? And then it's like, then it starts into, God, I'm going to go on a roll here. Then it starts into, but where's the space for me? There's no space for me with other people because they're more important. And so I have to swallow myself in order to like, and that's the cycle for me. It's like feeling guilty about being a certain way in a certain moment, and then having the opportunity to clean that up. And most often than not cleaning that up. And then that goes inward and I start to feel shame.
Cheeky question. If you
Really?
If you follow that feeling back, is there a depressed pause button, or is there a phase of life, or where did this come from? Because it sounds like you know this script and it plays over. I wonder where it started.
I mean, there was a part of me that wants to say when I was like 5 or 6, and it's my mum. And while she may well be the main perpetrator, it wasn't just her. Not only in terms of there are other people saying similar things, but also, and this is where some of that shame really gets reinforced. So I was 5 or 6. How the fuck could I choose at that point to say, oh no, I hear what you're saying, but that's yours and that's not mine, and you live your life the way you want to, and I live it the way that I want to. It's like, I was 5 or 6. How could I choose to do that? And yet there is a part of me, it's like, come on, Jan. You've always been bright. You've always been headstrong. You could have said no to this idea of appropriate, whatever the fuck that means. Like, appropriate for whom? It's appropriate for me to lose my shit right now. Let me lose my shit. But that was never available. Never. That was rarely available. And my experience, probably from the age of 4, 5, like early school, my mum, my teachers, everything, basically. I was quite a precocious kid, and caused quite a lot of trouble for teachers because I would question them and make them feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I was quite articulate and not stupid, and would question their authority, and they would react in the way that they did, and then I would take that reaction and turn that into guilt and shame, and it was always about appropriate. Like, that's not appropriate. I can't say that. That's not appropriate. So fuck, that's created this idea that I'm not appropriate.
Wow. Everyone breathing?
I am now.
Layers. So many layers there. And I thought about so many things, like inherited shame. It sounds like losing it. Your mother might feel shameful, and then she'll pass it on to you for you to behave so she doesn't feel shame. Taking your space because you're genuinely curious and you want to know and understand because there's a lot of you. Meanwhile, they're saying, we don't want that. We want you to be small. And I think what's really tragic is, boys have a lot of energy, and adults can find this energy annoying or difficult to deal with. And tragically, shame will kill a boy's spirit in a second. And when I was listening to you, Jan, it's like there are the logical stories, but what flashed through my mind is when I was very, very, very young in Africa, I remember just walking around the house and there were a load of ants, and I just walked over them and I walked past them, and then I don't know what got into me, but I walked back and I trampled on them and I killed them. And then I carried on. And the thing is, I think about that on a regular basis. But when I was listening to you, I wasn't thinking so much. I was feeling my feelings, and it took me back there. And this isn't logical. Shame is so emotional for me. It's non-specific emotional. And it can just seep into so many parts of my life and not make sense. And then I try and make sense out of it so I can survive this and still take my place and not harm people. It's so messy. But where you took me then, Jan, was really valuable. And I love how articulate and clear you are, but that was emotional. Thank you so much. Tanvir.
But to ask, yeah, and I can really, really felt that with like the whole mum thing, because like there's been moments with my mum where it's just been pure like ballistic, and she's quite an angry person and stubborn, and I've had moments where I've gotten so angry I've wanted to shame her as well, like really nasty, angry, like all guns blazing sort of arguments, and yeah, like one time I broke down in tears. But I mean, like I was going to ask, because it just made me realize that even with my sister sometimes, I can feel like maybe she's shaming me about something, like maybe passive aggressively, and then all of these thoughts of whatever I'm feeling shameful about comes up, and then I feel like I have to shame her about something. I want to ask Craig, like, was that anger or argument triggered by shame in any way? Was that involved?
You're on mute, Craig.
Don't say it. Don't fucking say it.
Shame on you.
Was it triggered by shame? Is that what you said, Tanvir?
Yes. Was there any shame involved in that?
No, what was going on for me was I'm not being looked after enough. Little boy triggered, I deserve better than this, was the heart of it, probably, at an emotional level. I'm still, I appreciate the question, I'm still not clear about my relationship to shame. When you said you felt like shaming your mom, I thought, oh no, I do that. I'm good the other way. I'm good the other way, very good the other way. Not sure I've got clear about this notion of shame versus guilt, sort of an intellectual level. So it's really helping me. It's really helping me think about it. I feel guilty about some of the way I behaved this morning, but I'm not connected to something to do with shame yet. And I don't know whether I should or not. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure.
Adrian.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's that disconnect, because I certainly feel that as well. Like, to me, shame is so strongly connected to power. Like, to shame others is a power and a privilege. To instill fear in another so that they toe the line. You're not appropriate. Do what I want, behave the way you be, something other than you are being, or I perceive you to be, and so toe the line, like get in line. Like literally everything around shame to me, I think of slavery, I think of fear, I think of blackness in its modern context. I think of growing up in an island in Bermuda that I perceive as being so superficial. It actually offends me how superficial people are, how neat their hair must be, but really it took me years of being angry, being ashamed of them for being superficial, right? Me shaming them, being like, yeah, what's wrong with you? Me sitting on a high horse shaming them. And it took me years to get to the point of realizing where does that come from? Where does it come from in myself? The need to shame them for however they're being. It's really a reaction to them shaming me for not towing the line, and me saying, like, that's not who I am. Like, I can't fit inside your box, and I refuse. That box is history and slavery and colonialism. Like, you are shoving yourself in a box that doesn't fit, and I think it's toxic, is what I was feeling. But then my emotion, the way that I'd express that, is rejection, which doesn't help them on their side. But there's so much fear. There's so much fear, and gosh, I mean, what a year 2020. Like, I felt for one of the first times ever with the Black Lives Matter movement that I could finally express to people how fear of police is a daily part of my life, and when I grew up, my mom and I had a conversation with her about this last week. She always said, kill them with kindness. This was one of her many, you know, Black mom speeches to her Black son, to say, like, don't get killed. Basically, don't give them a reason to put you in jail or murder you. You better smile, and you better, like, kill them with kindness. No matter what they do to you, you smile back at them. Because if you do not, it's at risk of your life, essentially. And of course, beyond that, it could be of shame to your family. And if it's a shame on your family, then it's a risk to their livelihood. Like, this knock-on effect. When I thought about shame, and, you know, you take it back to this childhood, I can't think of times where I felt ashamed really beyond a few, like, key moments in my childhood. Just, you know, small, immature, youthful things that I'm like, God, I was ashamed. And of course, there's things I was ashamed about as an adult, but to the same degree, so little, and so much of that is because of the power to curb behaviors, right? And to make yourself fit in, or to rebel in a very specific way, that to me gave me some freedom, but then trapped me in another box if I'm judging others instead of empowering them to free themselves. So shame is this like circle. It's almost like if it's gravitation, and, you know, I feel like guilt and frustration and anger and redirection are orbiting. It's like orbiting around this power structure that is shame. It's really powerful for humanity. I mean, that, you know, I still don't think that humans have evolved so much. Our technology's come a long way, but who we are inside in our bodies, like, we come from nomadic peoples who, if you're outside the tribe, if you are an outsider, you will not survive. And that shame of being excluded, being other, I think is powerful. And humans are wielding it constantly. COVID, you're wrong for choosing this choice. You're wrong. Everyone's shaming each other constantly. It's exhausting. I've been off social media because I'm like, I don't have time for it. Like, I don't want that in my life, and I make a choice that I'm happy about, because it doesn't bring me any joy to be in that orbit. It's so powerful, and I think if we weren't having this conversation, I wouldn't put those pieces together. Like, it's incredible, and it's tragic. Is how I feel about shame. Yeah, it's really tragic somehow. So now I'm thinking, how do I uplift people? Is it my job to uplift anybody, other than just feeling what I feel? I love what you're saying. Like, what do you feel in your body? Like, you know, no matter how someone else behaves, like, how do I experience it? I think I've been lucky. I've been very, very privileged to have the opportunity to I think I acknowledge my wife as well, that we're constantly keeping each other in integrity. I think that the amount of situations I would have been where I might have been drinking or partying or doing any amount of things, self-sabotaging things that would have led to me being ashamed and then going down negative cycles, have been cut in half because of good choice, healthy choices I made in terms of, like, my life partner and setting boundaries with my family, etc., etc. And God, I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all.
Thank you, Adrian. I wonder, just as a matter of interest, whether
Jan had his hand up.
Anyone, I'll go there in one sec, whether anyone had a shame for not being black at any stage, though.
Not from not being black, but yeah, the whole kind of the racial tension, sort of being on the other side of it, or being a part of the institutional racism in any way, shape, or form, or observing it. Yeah, totally. There was a lot of shame around that. Yeah,
being a part of it and not experiencing it, and that someone else does. It's like, I'm on this side, therefore. And the only reason I asked the question is it can be in there in a split second. The shame can be in there like crazy, and then a distraction or spiral. Jan?
Yeah, it was really interesting hearing you share that, Adrian. I think what I heard in there was that word power. Like, where is the power coming from, and who is power and control? Like, shame is a controlling tool, right? And what I was hearing in there, or what was kind of percolating through, is shame is a projection, and I either take on someone's projection and therefore I internalize the shame, or I project it back and we get into a shame game, and then whoever emerges victorious is the powerful one. And it's just so interesting, like, seeing it from a different perspective. Like, it's a tool to get what I want, or to get someone to give me what I want. And seeing it in that way, there's a part of me that actually feels quite sympathetic to my mum and my teachers and everyone else, because they were using a tool to get me to be quiet, basically, to make their lives easier. It doesn't diminish. Sorry, Neil.
Sorry, Jan, I was butting in. Maybe just the wrong tool.
Well, it's just a tool, right? It's the tool that they had available. It doesn't diminish the emotional pain that I've experienced.
Yeah.
Nor does it make it right or wrong. It's just those were the tools that they had available. And if I flip it the other way around, and I think, how would I be as a teacher with someone like me as a kid? Fuck. I'd be using anything I could, probably a bat. Forget shame. I'd be in Greg's camp, kicking that kid out of the classroom. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me what I can and can't do? Who are you to usurp my power, or to make me feel shame because I'm not good enough to teach this class? And it's like, the number of times I potentially triggered a sense of shame in somebody else. And so they then went into the shame game and threw that at me. And it's like, wow. As I say, it doesn't diminish the emotional pain, but it's like, okay, that's interesting. I played a role in that, unconscious. And shame was the trigger.
What's crossing my mind so much there is the way unconsciously I was enraged by not just my parents, I guess all adults in my life. How dare they not be enlightened before I showed up to give me it's like ridiculous. And my get out of jail free card, and it was my jail, was they couldn't share what they didn't have. So what is it that I need to unlearn or set myself free from? And I used to bitch about the older generations and how everyone was owned by what will people think. And now we have Instagram and Facebook. What is not about what will people think? Other people lying or putting on a good show. And crazy. We're almost at the end. Who hasn't spoken that would like to say something? Paul?
I've lived under a cloud of shame for most of my life. But I put myself there, but I was a kid. I didn't know any different. I just thought, right, I'll go under here. And the invisible committee in my head, I'll listen to all these people that are adults, and that'll protect me. And it's the best survival. I'll build a castle with big fuck off walls and a huge moat, and that's me safe on my own. And it's the opposite. I need to come out of my castle. I want to thank you all. You've all been a huge part of my lives in the last 6 months, or even just today. Just helping me question things, question what's going on, and question thoughts in my head, and showing me other ways of being, and I can hear. And now all these things that I thought were helping me to survive, I can see they're the opposite. I wasn't allowed to take space or have a voice or share feelings or even ask for help. I had to do it all on my own and be some lone figure that fixed it all. And now I've learned actually coming in a circle and sharing listening and sharing is the best way ever. Like, I've grown so much. And I had a dream last night. I want to share it just to show sharing, and I'm not controlled by shame, that I will share something. It was a dream. It was me and William riding down Regent Street on a double-decker bus at the top, and then we jump off. We went and got dairy-free milkshakes, ran into Hamley's, got 3 Batman outfits, one for me, one for William, one for Kenny, and a little Batman toy. And then today we went up to his office and surprised him. Like, we've got your Batman outfit, we're dressed as Batman, and we've got your toy. And just, that's what these men's groups feel like, just giving. And I was thinking it through. So we're giving a gift, but actually it was a thank you. It was a thank you that I've got my son back and my life back. Kenny was in the picture, but it's really all of you. Kenny was the main man. But yeah, it's to thank you all. I've got my life back and my son back. In 6 months, I turned it all around by showing up and sharing and being vulnerable and listening and be able to say what is on my heart. And that I can come, and days I can cry, I can feel my lips, and yeah, it feels like I'm pretty close to crying now. Just how much being in a circle of friends is amazing. Not the triangle, the hierarchy shit where you have to listen to the person above, but a circle where everyone's equal, everyone's got a voice, and everyone gets listened to. Has been such a massive learning curve, and I've never had that before until I came here. But that's my way of beating shame. I've come here, and all these little voices, I can just turn around and question now. I can just, where does that voice come from, and question it, and then they disappear. And I don't need to get angry and frustrated. I can just keep questioning it. And I've got a lot of voices, and I just keep questioning them. Where's it come from? And it might be one layer of the onion and another, and there's a shit ton of layers. But just questioning them is, every time gets deeper. So yeah, I just want to thank you all. You're all amazing, and all have been part of my journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
And thank you, Paul.
Joseph.
I feel a bit of shame following that now. I'll keep it short, but I wasn't really sure what I could add about shame, to be honest, listening to everyone. And initially I didn't know how to define it really. But even just like looking at the, like, how many, 1, 2, 8 faces sort of like looking at me like, say something useful about shame. There's that as well. And I think for me, when I think really honestly about it, it's understanding how I can take my space and have my own voice, and not feel shame about that, because for as long as I can remember, I've always, I've been that person that will just speak last, won't butt in, won't take an overly amount of time for me. I won't be that one. And so there's almost like this just natural stepping back quite a lot of the time. Like, don't overstep, don't interfere too much. Don't make it about you. Yeah, that was exacerbated a lot when I sort of like lost my hair as a teenager, where immediately it was also about, oh, now this is the way you look. That's a reason to feel shame and step back and not take don't step forward, because the way you look is really different, and you don't like it, and it's weird and it's different. So don't step forward. Don't take that space. Yeah, that's I suppose that's what's coming to mind when I think about this. And it's not totally, I'm, as Tanvir made like early on, that point about knowing those thoughts and being really aware of what's actually happening in your mind. Like in my mind, I'm much better about that now, but I do still have this really like strong, just don't overstay your welcome feeling. And maybe that is shame, but I find it difficult to define what shame is for me personally, but that's what comes to mind.
I think you just smashed it, Joseph.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a performance. Being together, to me, is worth its weight in gold. And it's not doing or showing off or having answers. It's like listening to you, learning from me as I speak things out, because I've got a space to speak things out, and they might just come together because they never did in my head. And also being together without, or bringing along my fear of, or without fear of being abandoned or humiliated. And I feel a lot of men are controlled by a fear of abandonment or humiliation. And I guess humiliation and shame are kind of like parasitic twins. I know we're over time, and I wonder about a very, 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 very quick round of how you feel right now, just to check out and to see how and where Greg is as well. Because I when I'm angry, it's like, do not even come near. You try and prise my arms away from my anger, and I break your arms until I'm ready to let it go.
Did I seem a bit like that?
No.
I feel steadier and more in connection with myself. The anger hasn't gone away, but like there's more of me and less of it in charge.
Thank you, Greg.
So thanks. Been great.
Paul?
Kind of.
I'm still buzzing, and so pleased I got to stand beside you all. I just love being in a circle amongst you all. Thank you.
Have the best time today, eh?
Thank you. Yeah, I will do. Cheers.
Jan?
I feel quite a lot lighter, actually. As a lot came out there, and a few things have like shifted. So yeah.
Thanks, Jan. Patrick?
I also feel lighter. That's a good expression, and much more curious about the subject, and reminded how lovely and warm and fuzzy this can be when we all share. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Patrick. Neil?
I'm feeling slightly fearful right now, having admitted that large parts of my life I've been controlled by fear of humiliation and abandonment. And I'm very grateful that I've seen those things and other ways, much richer ways to live, which I'm practicing. That's me.
Thank you, Neil. Adrian?
Yeah, I'm feeling like I've been on like the verge of happy tears like for the past like 4 stories at least. It's just this really brings out a lot of the compassion in me that and empathy that I think gets buried deep over time, being an adult, doing adult things, man things like. So yeah, I just so happy for all of you just to hear these successes and just the breakthroughs and realizations. And it's been such a pleasure for me, as it always is, to just be present here with you and also to have space to share as well. A real pleasure. Thanks for having me with you today.
Thanks, Adrian. Joseph?
Yeah, I think I just feel better in my body. Like when I was listening to you all, I was sort of like a bit hunched over like this. And then after I spoke, I was just like, sort of like collapsed in my chair a bit. Like I was way more relaxed. So yeah, that's the power of this.
What a relief. Thanks, Joseph. Tanvir?
I feel I feel really sincere and just happy. Really, I just I feel a lot of the strength that comes with being with other men, you know, and having you guys. Or as they say, like it's a wonderful thing that us guys have together that, you know, we can dip in and out when we need. So yeah, I really appreciate all your guys' shares as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanvir. I feel dry mouthed and like I could have a little cry in the best possible heart opening way. I just wanted to say as well, for most of you facilitate groups, and especially the daily check-in groups, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Couldn't have done it without you or all the guys through the years.
You always take a drink when you feel like crying, don't you?
Oh,
Kenny?
fuck off.
Always.
It's a tell.
Right, you can go and kick your dog now, Greg.
I decided to go for you instead, mate.
I'm so grateful to all of you guys. Thank you. I forget to say that. See you very soon.
Have a great weekend, all.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.